I'm always amazed at how easy it is to find beauty in South Africa, in particular the Western Cape. Yeah, we are making steady progress to the Berg River. We are only about 5 kilometers away now, but before we will reach the Berg River, we will turn onto the Gouda Road. Yeah, but it just remains amazingly beautiful. Now, this Swartland area, especially in winter time, must be one of the most beautiful parts of South Africa. It's simply stunning, and to ride it on a beautiful dirt road like this one even makes it more special. Yeah, so this is a dirt road connecting Gouda with Middelberg. Yeah, looking back at the Kasteelberg in the distance. Yeah. And there the Olifants River Mountains is lying ahead of us, and straight ahead one can see the wind farm of Gouda. Might not be so visible on the camera. Now we are very close to the Berg River now, 1 kilometer to go. So the Berg River is the constant feature that goes straight through the Swartland, all the way from Franschhoek through Wellington, and then passing here in the center of the Swartland and all the way to Velddrif on the Atlantic coast. You will remember, for those of you that watched the West Coast series, that there's a lagoon and a marina there at Velddrif, and that is where the Berg River flows into the Atlantic Ocean. It's almost 300 kilometers from source to where it runs into the sea. I think it's 294 kilometers. Yeah, so there in front is the Berg River Bridge. It's a narrow steel structure, it seems. Yeah, the river is not flowing very fast. Yeah, so that was the Berg River Bridge, crossing a very important river in the Swartland. Yeah. And the green fields continue and continue. Beautiful. Yeah, so it's only about 4 kilometers, just more than 4 kilometers before we reach the R44, and we will thus reach the end of the Gouda Road, and that will be the end of dirt roads, I think, for the remainder of this trip to Eendekuil. But what a ride this was. I thought it was going to be good, but didn't think it's going to be this beautiful. I'm always amazed at how easy it is to find beauty in South Africa, in particular the Western Cape. But this Gouda Road and the dirt roads all the way from Riebeekasteel is in excellent condition, I must say. This was really an easy ride. If I compare it to some of those dirt roads that I took in the Sandveld, this is an absolute breeze. So there the Eendekuil pass is coming through from the Tilbach Valley. It's the only place that you can actually cross through a poort between these mountains to get to the Tilbach Valley, and also then further onto the Breda Valley after that. We of course passed through the Eendekuil pass yesterday on the ride from Tilbach to Riebeekasteel. So we now reach the connection to the R44 right here at the Gouda wind farm. I'm always amazed at how huge these wind generators are. They are humongous. So the R44 here is connecting Wellington with Porterville, and we are now making our way to Porterville. The Porterville is about 29 kilometers on this road, and this is simply going to be a quick crossing at a bit higher speed. And of course with the Honda CRF 300 Rally, some tar road cruising is always appreciated as well, because just cruising at a leisurely 100 kilometers per hour is what is perfect for this bike on a tar road. So this is just gentle cruising. The total distance of our trip today from Riebeekasteel to Eendekuil is 99 kilometers, so it's a little bit further than some of our previous trips. So this now helps to make up some speed and make up some time for the trip. We have now made the crossing to Porterville on our way to Eendekuil. Yeah, Porterville is a very prominent town here in the Swartland, very close to the foot of the Olifants River mountain. And as I mentioned quite a few times, of course, the Swartland is dominated by wheat production, and this is absolutely the business in the farms around Porterville, is wheat farms. Porterville is hidden a little bit away here in the valley. So as you approach it, you do descend a little bit down to the town. I think one will only start seeing it really after this next rise in the road. Oh, but it is green. Some yellow flowers are starting to come through the green grass as well. Porterville. Yeah, you can see that the whole town is lying a bit of a layer lower than the entrance roads. Yeah, but like most towns in this area, of course it is dominated by the Dutch Reformed Church, and I will just make a quick detour for us to see the church. I'm not sure if you can see the steeple of the church there in the distance. Is by far the tallest structure in the town. But this is the main road, and the church is just one street off from the main road. So maybe just a little bit of history of Porterville. So Porterville was actually laid out quite some time ago, 1863. It was laid out as a town, and it is named after Sir William Porter, who was the Attorney General of the Cape for the period 1839 to 1866. So Porterville named after Sir William Porter. We just make a turn here, and it's got quite a regular grid structure of streets. Well, basically the whole town. But the town itself is total length about 1.5 kilometers, so it is not a very big town. I'm just going to make a turn here to drive past the church. Actually, this building here on the right hand side is also interesting, because many years ago, this was the cinema of Porterville. It's long not being used as a cinema anymore, but you can see this town had a cinema. I'm not sure how old the building is, but it's interesting. And then this building on the left is the Jan Dankwart Museum. So if you want to learn more about the history of Porterville and the area, then the Jan Dankwart Museum is your place to come. But yeah, here in front is the church. Now this is really an impressive building. You will recall that in my second series I also made a stop in Porterville at the end of that series, but I didn't really talk about the town or the church a bit. But just look at this beautiful church. So this is such a solidly built structure, beautiful. You can see the front facade is also, with its columns and pillars in front, really beautiful. Let me just make a bit of a stop for a better view. Yeah, just look at it. Now this church is not as old as many of the churches that we have seen so far. This church is actually the third church on this site that was built, and it was built in 1925. So this year it is exactly 100 years old. And an interesting little fact about this church is that it was the first church in South Africa that was actually designed by an Afrikaans architect known as Wynand Louw. Yeah, so I find this bit of history quite interesting. But this is just a quick stop on our route to Eendekuil. So let's just continue down the main road of Porterville and then on to Eendekuil. Let's go. The distance to Eendekuil is another 39 kilometers from Porterville, so we're just going to continue on this tar road, although the R44 is now changing to the R365 to take the road to Eendekuil. But anywhere from town you can see the Olifants River Mountains, so beautiful views onto the mountain. Yeah, and just past Porterville there are very interesting campsites. I think this one that you turn off to the right here is one of the most famous. It's called Laatson, and it's there where the valley goes into the mountain. Beautiful campsites and many waterfalls to be seen if you go up the gorge there. It's something like 24 waterfalls, so definitely a campsite to consider for a beautiful camping experience. Yeah, we have now passed through the gateway of the eucalyptus trees to get out of Porterville. Yeah, so the previous time I rode these roads, it was midsummer, and then it looks completely different. Then all these fields are barren and yellow and dried up, because then there's no rain. But you can see the first rain has come here, and these wheat fields are, now the wheat fields and the canola fields are already starting to grow. So there in the distance is the Berg and the Berg. So you will remember in the previous series I rode on top of Berg and also came down the Versveld Pass. So if you've not yet watched that series, please go and have a look. That was also a wonderful drive. Now we made the crossing now from Porterville to the N7 connection to Eendekuil. Oh, what a beautiful ride. I have to fight a little bit of wind, but no problem. So the N7 is of course the main national highway connecting Cape Town to Namibia. But we will stay on the N7 for a very short distance, because I think it is basically just a crossing of the N7 that is required now to get to Eendekuil. Yes, 1 kilometer to turn off on the main road to Eendekuil. So indeed a very short or ride on the N7. So from here, just 5.5 kilometers now to get to the town of Eendekuil. Yeah, but just look at the mountains. This is, I think, the more northern end of the Berg. Stunning, stunning mountains. Now we've made the crossing now to the town of Eendekuil. So Eendekuil is also, yeah, lying down there in a, well, lower valley almost. So you cannot really see it when you approach it, but yeah, there is the town of Eendekuil. As far as I know, Eendekuil is quite a small settlement. Yeah, and as many towns, again, the church is dominating the town. You can probably see the church steeple there in front. I have no information about this church, but it seems very, very modern. So it is probably not very old. Yeah, there you can see the modern church building. Now the town of Eendekuil is quite important. It's got an important history because it's got a very strategically placed train station, and this was the terminus of the Cape Railway for many years until the Anglo-Boer War. So this is how far the railway track from Cape Town came. So it played, and still today even, plays an important role as a railhead. So a railhead is of course a place where other transport, say roads and so on, connect with the railway station. So yeah, it is an important railhead then for this area in the Citrusdal area, and of course in this part of the Swartland Valley, because to get to Citrusdal and further to the interior you need to cross the Olifants River Mountains, so it's quite steep. In those years it was then the railhead. Now another important aspect of Eendekuil is it's one of the few places where a hotel was erected, but I'm not sure where the hotel is. I think I passed it already because it's not in existence anymore, but it was built in 1900, and then it was, yeah, let me just turn around because I have now missed it. Let me just see if I make a turn around here. I think it must be one of these buildings, but I'm not 100% sure. I think it might be across there where the hotel was built. So let me just stop here. This hotel was erected in 1900 and rebuilt in 1952, and it represented one of the few hotels in this area. Yeah, let me just take a bit of a break. Yeah, I've just made a stop here in Eendekuil for a bit of a break, taking a snack, taking a drink of water. But I just thought to talk a little bit more about the Honda CRF rally, and specifically to respond maybe to quite a few questions I got about what it takes to do maintenance for this bike. Now, I must say the one big advantage of the Honda CRF 300 rally is the huge, well, I think it's huge, service intervals that you get for this bike. It only needs to be serviced every 12,000 kilometers, which I find quite extraordinary. So I've had the bike now for about 7-8 months. I bought it in October last year. Of course you need to service it after the first 1,000, but that is more like the pre-service, and then after that only 12,000 kilometers later. So it's only got about 6,000 kilometers on the clock at the moment, so it's still a relatively new bike and quite still far to go before I service it. So yeah, servicing is still something that will be done. So I of course do the servicing of the bike at Mikor Honda in Durbanville. That is where I also bought this bike, and when I took it for this 1,000 kilometer service, I just inquired a bit, is it really 12,000? They confirmed indeed, yes, it's the case. But they also said that if I really do want to, I can maybe at half the kilometers, say after another 6,000 kilometers or so, I can bring it in for maybe just an oil change and a checkup. So I suppose if you really want to have longevity in this engine, that might be a good idea, even if it's not strictly necessary. So once it hits about 7,000 kilometers, then it's, well, 6,000 kilometers into the service period, I will probably take it for an oil change and also for a bit of a checkup. But other than that, not much to worry about. And I think this is one of the advantages again of why this bike is such a good bike for cruising, because you don't have to worry about intervals for servicing so much. I mean, 12,000 is a long distance to go. That combined with the range of this bike, I think I mentioned it before, 12.8 liters tank, so it is quite a large fuel tank, which can take, well, 350 k's I can ride with this bike. So you don't have to worry too much about filling it up all the time, and then combined with quite a long, well, distance to go, 12,000 kilometers between services, it really makes it a convenient bike for the kind of cruising that I'm doing. Yeah, so I hope you find that interesting. And this is also, yes, as I said, in response to some people that's asked, what do you require to service this bike? Now, I know for certain motorcycles you have very short service intervals, so this is indeed a big advantage of this bike. This now brings me to the end of this trip from Riebeekkasteel to Eendekuil. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this ride with me. It was a fantastic, well, departure there from Riebeekkasteel, making the short stop at Riebeek West, Smuts House, and then riding that beautiful farm areas through the Swartland to the Berg River and the Berg River Bridge. Well, I certainly enjoyed it a lot. And then also doing a bit of faster crossings to Porterville and now to Eendekuil. I enjoyed this trip. I hope you enjoyed it with me. If you did, please give me a big thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And I will shortly continue with this trip from Eendekuil, but I will bring that to you in the next video. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep well and bye-bye.